Good evening, everybody. This is Reverend Vicki Hughes, and I am going to be moderating a series called Diversity Matters. I actually did a thing and I put together a diversity team, a team of diverse individuals, and we will be discussing various issues. They will be related to diversity based on current events and troubling happenings that might be happening in current time. I want to ask everybody, my diversity team, as well as those watching, to share this video right now. If you're able, we want as many people on as possible because this is the start of a series of conversations we're going to be having. We want to serve as an example, as a model of diverse people coming together for a conversation about our differences in order to try to understand each other, to empathize with each other, help each other, and love each other. So again, please share this video on your Facebook pages. Again, this is Diversity Matters. Diversity matters. We cannot talk about reconciliation, healing, and unity until we openly hear, truly listen to, empathize with, and sincerely try to understand other people's pain. And we all have pain of some kind. It's time to acknowledge and accept our differences and embrace our similarities. Tonight, I've encouraged my team of people, my friends, to talk about their pain, frustration, and despair. I want us to speak our truths and to respect each other for doing that, and really provide each other with support. This is the only way that we're going to bring about understanding, healing, and steps toward reconciliation, equality, and unity in this country. And I can tell you that concerning the recent events within the last month or so, Black people are not the only ones hurting from recent killings of Black people, specifically Black males. There are a lot of white people and other ethnicities. People have stepped forward to help us to speak out against injustices. And some of these people, and I'm mainly talking about white people here, they have stepped forward, and a lot of them are experiencing just pure hell from their families, from their parishioners, if they have churches, if they're pastors, from their neighbors. Again, they're white and speaking out for Black people, and some people have problems with that, but they keep going. These people know that they are doing the right thing, so they keep going. We all have to open our mouths and talk. This is the first of several conversations, like I said, with the group of people I have on tonight and myself. You're going to hear about our emotions, our experiences, our biases even, and our coping mechanisms. And we're starting tonight by talking about race, about ethnicity. And as the weeks progress, we're going to talk about other diversity issues like sexual orientation, gender differences, generational gaps, religious differences, religion versus spirituality versus atheism, and things like that. You name it, we're going to talk about it. So please stay with us, not just tonight, but on bi-weekly Wednesdays from 8:30 to 10. And we hope that we will find ways to heal, cope, interact, and live and love differently. And audience, we hope that you will learn from us and start conversations on your own. These conversations need to be happening around our country because our country needs healing. A lot of us are hurting. A lot of us have pain that others don't know about, and people need to understand each other. So tonight, the topic is Black lives, brown bodies, Black lives matter. Tonight, this is our topic, and we're going to talk about it. Boy, are we going to talk about it, because it is in the forefront of the news, and it has been for several weeks, really for several years, but it has gotten really bad now. We've all seen the video of George Floyd. His murder was on that video. We've all experienced a wide range of emotions based on what we saw. And I just want to tell you that whenever I see the video, they still show it on TV. And I focus on George's face and the words, "I can't breathe." But the image of Derek Chauvin's smug looking face is what continues to haunt me. It troubles me. At the same time, his expression really troubles me because it's this look of indifference. It's just a blank look, like a disregard for human life. I wonder, what was he thinking? And, I'm in ministry, so I wonder if he grew up in church. Was the Holy Spirit, his conscience, really speaking to him and saying, "Don't do this, stop." And he just ignored those words and, things in his head and kept doing what he was doing. I'm still angry, I'm sad, I'm disheartened and deeply troubled. And since then, since George Floyd's murder, we've had another one. A Black man named Rashard Brooks was just killed this past weekend in Atlanta area. And my understanding is that after he was shot and fell to the ground, he was spat on. I mean, enough is enough. I was young when Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were killed, but I remember when Rodney King was beaten and left for dead. That was in the early 90s. That was almost 30 years ago. And we're still, as Black people, we are still dealing with the same hatred and disregard for our lives. Enough is enough. Let me tell you a little bit about myself quickly, and then I'm going to introduce my team, and then we're going to talk. Who am I? My parents were born and raised in Middle Tennessee. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was raised in a predominantly Caucasian upper middle class suburb. My parents, my brother and I all attended and graduated from historically Black colleges and universities. My parents are Tennessee State University graduates. My brother graduated from Morehouse College and I graduated from Spelman College. I have a college degree. I have 3 postgraduate degrees, one of which is a law degree, where one of my concentrations was constitutional law and civil rights. And then I have a divinity degree. I focused on pastoral care and counseling, and I was extremely interested in multicultural ministry. I'm an AME Zion ordained clergy person. I am a chaplain currently at a hospital, and I am an associate minister at a church. I have started various diversity initiatives over the years, and this is my first online diversity effort. And just a few other things. I've jump-started conversations, facilitated workshops, and I have given motivational speeches over the years about diversity and other issues. I know that conversations about diversity and our differences and similarities are necessary. I have asked my team to talk about their pain and, show their emotions. So I want to briefly share a story about me. By the time I reached high school, again, I was in a predominantly white suburb. I had a lot of white friends, a few Black ones. By the time I reached high school, I struggled trying to fit in with kids who looked like me, the Black kids, as more Blacks moved from the city of Milwaukee to this suburb where I was growing up. I actually was supposed to be getting beat up my first day of high school. I found out that summer before, and my parents are both educators. They called the school and that didn't happen, but the pain and hurt was still there. I found out that I was going to be getting beat up for talking white and acting white. I was bullied some in high school. I was disliked by some in high school, and I'm talking about by other Black students there. That's my truth. And, as an adult, I've maintained friendships with a diverse group of people, as my parents have and my brother has. I believe that experiences we have early in life shape our views, and often we have to do some major inner work to change our mindsets, to rid ourselves of biases, and to learn to trust and love those who look like us and those who don't. So that's my introduction to this, and I would like to introduce my team of people. A few people were not able to get on tonight. A few have to leave this conversation, but I have a team of 8 people, and in addition to myself. So without further ado, let me introduce them. Let me start with Ronald Bennett Williamson. If you would introduce yourself, and if each person could take maybe about 3 minutes to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get into conversation. Bennett, can you unmute yourself? Bennett, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Yep,
okay.
There we go. Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you now. So sorry.
Okay.
It's,
Okay, if you would tell us, where you're from, if someone's not sure of someone's ethnicity, if you would say your ethnicity, what kind of family background you had, what kind of conversations about race went on as you were growing up, those kinds of things.
Sure. So my name is Bennett Williamson. I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I also we moved to a suburb of Milwaukee here. I grew up in a very privileged situation. My mother is an educator. My father is a very well-educated IT consultant hacker. And we grew up in we were the only Black family on the block. I am African-American Black. I deal with either. Neither one is going to offend me. And I was often the only one. I was the only Black kid in an event, in a sport. I was the only Black male in a class. And then to add to that burden, I also came out as gay when I was 13 years old. So I was young and very self-aware and very self-assured in my sexuality and in my race, but was surrounded by people that didn't really understand how I could be so bold and so forward about the person that I am. As far as race was concerned in my family, we had very open discussions about it, which I'm thankful for. There were times at which there were stereotypes toward white people thrown around, but that was kind of a way of coping with the racism with some of the things we dealt with, being the only Black family on the block. My mother was the only African-American, one of 2 actually, educators at the school that I went to. So we sort of shielded ourselves in that way by using some of the stereotypes that we had learned about white people to sort of cope with what we were dealing with. But Milwaukee is a very segregated city. It still is the most in the country, and I'm glad to be here to represent it and sort of give you my take on race relations and how things go and what I've seen here.
Okay. Thank you, Bennett.
Of course.
Let me see. Okay, Jasmine.
Hello.
I think you're already unmuted. Okay.
My name is Jasmine Newton, and I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I currently live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've been here since 2008. I pretty much grew up in what I considered a middle class, lower middle class, I guess. We had hard times. We had times where we struggled. I was raised on the south side of Chicago, which I always tell everybody that's the part of Chicago that you always hear about on the news. But I didn't back then see it as how bad everyone makes it out to be. I went to a school that was a predominantly Black elementary school, if not almost all Black. There was a sense of Black excellence that was taught there. The same neighborhood that Michelle Obama talks about in Becoming in her book, that is the neighborhood I come from. That is, she went to the same elementary school I went to. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of points that she makes about growing up there that I feel exactly the same. I didn't feel or even notice any type of difference or something that looked a little different to me until I went out to the suburbs of Chicago. And it was just like, oh, okay, it's a little different out here. This is not the hood. So when I turned 10 years old, my mother's job moved us out to St. Louis, Missouri. And the first school district that I went to was a predominantly white school district. And that was a huge culture shock for me. Not in the fact that I felt like I couldn't get along with anybody, but that was probably, fifth grade was when we changed to St. Louis. And that was probably the first time that I started hearing things that didn't sound quite right. Like, you don't act like the rest of the Black people, or you don't sound Black, or, just little things like that. My teachers asking if my dad was a gang member or if I even knew my dad. Little questions like that I went through my fifth grade year, my sixth grade year, going into middle school. And then I changed to a different school district in middle school, and it was pretty much predominantly Black again. Now we had a little bit more white people in there. It's a little bit more of a mix. And, that was where I pretty much say I felt more at home. I didn't come across that huge of a culture shock. I was comfortable there. It was diverse enough for me. Graduated, moved to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Green Bay, Wisconsin was definitely another culture shock. And then was there until I was about 22. And then I moved here to Knoxville, Tennessee, which has been a whole other type of culture shock, because I went from the north to the south, and it was just like a whole other ball game down here. So what I would say, I should also say I'm a mother. I have a 9-year-old son who is just now starting to realize that he is a Black kid. He's realized that within the past, I'd say in the past 2 years, he's noticed the difference based on what kids have been saying to him. And then I have a 22-year-old stepdaughter, and she lives in Memphis. And of course, there's my husband. My mother has moved in with me. So, that's my life. I work as a portrait photographer. I network in any space I can get into. I try to network as much as possible. And a lot of those spaces are often spaces where I'm probably either the only Black person, or I am like a little bitty small group of Black people, and I'm in that group. But I've definitely noticed the microaggressions with racism in the networking that I do. I've definitely noticed it in my work, when people see my work and then they meet me in person and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that you were a Black woman. I thought you were a white guy," based off of your work. So it's definitely something that, I can't say that I'm surprised, which is kind of awful. That should not be something that I expect, but it's also not surprising when I hear things like that. But, there are different things that I've experienced from childhood up until now into what I do in my business, where I'm noticing the different things that are going on.
Okay. Thank you, Jasmine. I forgot to mention I'm in Knoxville too. So, okay. Next, let's see. I see Tangela on the screen. So could you introduce yourself?
I'm Tangela Cameron. I am in China Grove, North Carolina. I was born in Concord, North Carolina, which is about 20 to 30 minutes from where I am now. I've lived pretty much my entire life in this same area in the South. I grew up in a working class family, living in white neighborhoods, going to predominantly white schools, having predominantly white friends. I had family that didn't really talk about race unless they were talking particularly negatively about people of color in general. I had and still have family members that fly the Confederate flag, and do other things that are really troubling to me. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Catawba College, which is a private school in Salisbury. And I have a master's of divinity from Hood Theological Seminary, which was a big change because that is a historically Black seminary. It's the same seminary that Vicki went to. And that was a changing experience for me, both in the fact that when I was a student at Hood, I was the youngest student. I was 21. There was nobody that was younger than me. And I was one of the fewer white students. We did have white students because we had Methodist students like myself. I'm Methodist, and we had Lutheran students and such that would come to Hood. But I was one of the few. So that has been my experience. It saddens me a little bit to say that I didn't really think about race very much until I was 21 years old. I mean, that's a privilege to get that far in life and not really think about it. I taught elementary school for a couple years. Just to throw a quick story out, when I taught kindergarten, I taught in a private school. It was completely white except for one Black child who was in my class. And I think about how we were doing an activity where we were coloring pictures of ourselves. And one of the little white girls looked over to the Black girl and she showed her a peach crayon. She said, "Here, for your skin." And the little girl just says, "Oh no, I need the brown color." And then everybody just kept going with what they were doing. It was just a beautiful moment that I think about a lot when I think about conversations like what we're going to have tonight and in the future weeks, and how we can continue to better connect, better speak with, and better hear with each other.
Okay, thank you, Tangela. Okay, let's see. Is Patrick, are you still on?
Hi.
Okay.
So I'll introduce myself. I'm Patrick Jones. I am a United Methodist clergy. I too went to Hood with Vicki. That's where Vicki and I met. I grew up outside of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So the liberal bastion of the South, with all of the university educators there. And was kind of sheltered from the race issue. Grew up in, white privilege, never even talked about race, never dealt with race, until in 5th grade, we moved out to Alamance County and outside of the Chapel Hill Triangle area. And that was my first experience with race, was in 5th grade when riding the school bus. My neighborhood was right next to the predominantly Black neighborhood, and the old white lady of the bus driver saw me getting on the bus and she said, "Honey, you need to sit right behind me." And I didn't understand why. My friends were going to be in the back of the bus. So that was probably the first experience with race. And then I didn't really deal with it or address it again until I went to Hood, and I was the minority for the first time in educational experience. So where my eyes were open to the cultural differences and the things that I had been completely blind to, and the biases that I carried within myself and the way I interacted with people. Since graduating Hood a couple of years ago, I have been appointed to two churches in rural Chatham County, North Carolina, south of Raleigh. And one is an all-white congregation. One does have a few people of color. as members. So diverse group of people that I'm working with, having these conversations with, and struggling with addressing this conversation about race in the church when several have told me that don't bring any of that politics or political stuff into the church. So that's kind of the big struggle I'm having right now. So I'm hoping these conversations can help us shed light on how we have that conversation and separate it from the political issue, because it's not a political issue, it's a human issue, a moral issue. So that's my story.
Okay, and also everybody, Patrick's a pastor of these two churches, so I mean he's actually Reverend Patrick Jones. So I just wanted everybody to know that. Okay, let's see. How about Amy Gowdy? You would share your truths with us.
Hi, my name's Amy Gowdy. So my story is I was born in 1966 in Chicago, and when I was conceived, it was illegal for my biological parents to have gotten married, because my father's Black and my mother was white. And after I was born, I was going to be put up for adoption, but it was illegal for me to be adopted because transracial adoption was also still illegal. So I couldn't be adopted to a white family. I couldn't be adopted to a Black family. So through a series of events, I ended up being adopted within the family. So my adoptive mother was my biological aunt. So my parents who raised me were Caucasian. They obviously, I'm a little on the light side, so they never tried to pass me though. But they moved me and my sisters, who were also adopted, and they were Pacific Islander and white, so they were also biracial. And so my parents moved us all to California specifically because they didn't want us to have to grow up in a racially tense environment in the Midwest. So my privilege was not so much in my skin tone, it was really being in California in the 70s and 80s when that race was not as big of a deal. I went to a high school where everybody was segregated by theme, the jocks and the punks and the hippies, and but it was all multiracial. It was a very heavily Hispanic and Samoan environment in San Pedro. Most of the white people there were Yugoslavian and Italian, so they were immigrant grandparents. So I also didn't really have to deal with too much racial issues until I got to college. But I actually was admitted under affirmative action to my college. And I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and there were 600 Black students out of 16,000, of which they counted me as one. And so, but in going through that program, I had to take a race relations class, and it was crazy because the Black people and the white people didn't want to talk to each other, but everybody would talk to me. So I've always had this kind of bridge the gap thing where white people feel a little bit more comfortable talking to me. I'm very open about being a Black woman. I claim myself as a Black woman. I was very happy when my Ancestry.com came back and I had Nigerian on there. But, people have always felt more at ease discussing these topics with me than, and vice versa. A lot of times Black people will talk to me about, white people. Career-wise, I have my own business. I'm the CEO of 2 companies. I'm a consultant, but then I also own a record label and a hip hop culture store here in Charlotte. But my last job in corporate America was as the director of supplier diversity for a Fortune 100 company. So I spent 5 years dealing with diversity, understanding demographics, understanding the statistics behind it, the marketing, why corporations do what they do, how they do it, and a lot of the historical perspectives on that. One of the hardest things for me has been having family members who are quite perfectly aware of what my heritage is, but again, some people seem to forget or don't want to see that I'm Black. And so they will say things and they will do things knowing that it's going to hurt me. And also my daughter, I have a 21-year-old daughter who's father is much more brown skinned, so she's brown skinned. And I'm like, you have a Black child in your family and you're still going to do the things that you do. So I'm fascinated by the topics. I like to talk about the science of it, the statistics of it, the history of it, and then also, what I experience on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Also, everybody, Amy's daughter was one of the founding members of my youth organization I started back in 2010. It was called the Black Girls Corner Incorporated. So she was one of the founding members. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, and I'm not sure if Reverend Eleazar Partita is on. Let's see. So let me, Rosa Delgado, would you please introduce yourself? And I'll see if Eleazar's on.
Hi, I'm Rosa Delgado, originally from Buffalo, New York, but I'm here in Atlanta area now. Spent 15 years in Charlotte, so hi, North Carolina, miss you guys. But I associate myself as a Black woman, and I felt at a certain point in my life I had to make that choice. But I'm from a multi-diverse family, military family, Puerto Rican, Irish, German, Korean. I mean, we got it all, Cape Verdean, and we never had a direct race conversation. I don't think because we felt it was necessary growing up. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but as I came into young adulthood, I got you're not Black enough, you're not Latina enough, you speak like a white person, I got that, or you're pretty for a Black girl, or you're smart for a Black girl kind of thing. And I think that kind of pushed me to make a choice to represent myself as a proud Black woman and now a mother of Black children. But we didn't experience, a lot of racial tension. We always went to diverse schools or, lived in diverse working class neighborhoods and things like that. So in 2001, I moved south, and my first employer was in Fort Mill, South Carolina, a small town, with typical good old boy culture. And it was a shock to me. With public school in the North, I didn't even know what a Confederate flag was. The history was kind of, glazed over as far as civil rights and slavery and stuff like that until I went to college and kind of dove into it myself. Just wasn't in tune into it. And it was unbelievable in that the 21st century, this is still an issue to me. So, over the last 10, 15 years, I've kind of gotten more research and my own education about it. And as a mom, I feel very important to, spread that to my community, my children, and, spread it with knowledge and pride, but also to inform and educate people who just don't have that experience. And so they don't understand the pain, the emotion, the frustration. They only have, what the media or their community and, are telling them about the events going on and, you know, their reasonings why. And some of their comments are hurtful because they don't understand. And instead of saying they don't understand, they say things that are pretty hurtful. So I have been trying to be really vocal and my, non-ethnic coworkers or friends, people I've known my whole life that, never thought this would be an issue in our relationship. And unfortunately it is now. So, career wise, I work in shipping. I have a bachelor's in international business from Central Piedmont Community College and UNC Charlotte. And I've been pretty much working with a diverse group of people from Germany and, other countries, and we all discuss these issues. It's not just in our country. Right now, it's in the forefront in the media in our country, and people are really backing us worldwide, internationally, with the enough is enough, because it's long-term history that needs to be addressed and erased. And, that's what we're here for, to open up conversation, because the people that don't want the change don't want conversation, and that's the problem. We have to have conversation because that could be one of the easiest steps towards change is conversation. But some people are purposely trying to eliminate that conversation. So I feel, very thankful for you, Vicky, for putting this together, and because it is important to get that conversation going.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Rosa.
Hmm.
So you all, let's see. So you've met 6 people, and is Eleazar on the line? I'm not sure. Okay, so I don't think he's on. He wasn't feeling well earlier. So just to mention briefly, the other 2 people on the team, Reverend Eleazar Partida, and he is a Latina male. He is a pastor of, I believe, 2 churches. I'm not sure if Reverend Patrick Jones is still on. He would know. But anyway, he's the pastor of at least 2 churches. And also the other person who was not able to get on today due to a death in his family earlier on his wife's side of the family is Brother Ephraim Graham Muhammad, and he is a Black male. He is a Muslim man, and he lives in, well, Eleazar and Ephraim Graham both of them live in North Carolina. So you will meet them the next time. We will be on Wednesday, July 1st. So this is my team of 8 people. And I'm not sure is Jasmine still on?
Yep, I'm here. I'm still chilling.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna listen to a song briefly, like for 60 seconds or so. I want you all to listen to, in the audience, to listen to the lyrics. And then Jasmine, I'm gonna ask you the first question, and then you can hop off if you'd like. Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, so this song is we're just gonna listen to a snippet of Trey Songz's song called How Many Times, and we can sit here and reflect or pray, whatever we want to do. It's a pretty profound song, so let's listen to it. How many mothers have to cry? How many brothers gotta die? How many more times? How many more times? How many more marches? How many more signs? How many more lives? How many more times? Take a look around. Can you see it now? Don't be colorblind. Cause when they're killing mine, they'll try to justify it. For each and every time. Playing in the park, taking your jog, sitting on the couch, in your own house. Never seen a matter what we do. You think we don't matter, but we do. You got a problem cause the city. Okay, so Jasmine, I'm gonna ask you a 2-part question, and then answer as long as you want to, and then you can jump off. Okay, so first of all, I want to hear your reaction to when the first time you saw the George Floyd video of him getting murdered, and the second part of this is, once you experienced all of your emotions, what kind of conversation did you have with I believe you said your son is 9 years old. So again, your reaction, and then what do you talk to your son about?
I hate to say it, but I was pretty numb. Like, it's gotten to the point where there's so many videos that come out, and it seems like they're on a daily or weekly basis for the past few years, where you feel a sense of just numbness. And I don't know if it's part of the fact that I've seen so many, or if it's part of the fact that I've just started to really try to guard myself and not go into some sort of blind rage when I see it. But I felt numb. It definitely was one of those things, as far as the thought process, it was definitely one of those things where I'm thinking, okay, why isn't this guy listening? This guy is literally pleading with him. And it was just like, they just don't care. They just don't care. And it's really disheartening because, just like police will get upset and say, okay, when one of ours gets hurt, you know, that's who we're gonna care about, that because they're one of ours. They're our brothers, you know, they're our sisters on the force. They represent us. Well, we feel the same way when we see one of ours get killed, when we see one of ours taken from us, because we automatically relate to that person. And that could have been our dads, our uncles, our sons, our brothers, or, you know, stuff happening to Black women too. It could have been our sisters, our mothers, our aunts, our nieces, our daughters. So it's just one of those things where you automatically, it's personal. It's not some guy in Minneapolis and you don't know him and something happened to him. It's personal now. And maybe it's because of the fact that it's been happening so much. We've been seeing it so much. We've been knowing that is happening since before videos have been coming out. Like, we've been knowing this is not new. I've been telling people, there are so many people that have spoken to me and they go, oh my God, Jasmine, how the world is just getting so crazy now. And I'm like, girl, it's been crazy. Where you been? It's been like this. We've been telling you. We are not just these protests and everything that you're seeing. This is not something that we just decided to get upset about today. We've been upset. We're angry about more than George. We're angry about everything. We're angry about George. We're angry about Emmett Till. We're angry about slavery. We're angry about everything. And in every single step, every single stage, every single decade, everything, we have been telling y'all, and y'all ain't been hearing it. As far as my son, he's 9. So I'm still in the process of trying. There are certain things that I still don't show him. But he is well aware. He has become well aware that he's a Black kid. He puts 2 and 2 together though. You know, when I try to teach him about his history, we sat down and when we were talking about geography, where the different continents are. And he was having a hard time remembering what the continents were. So a way that I figured to help him remember was, I was just like, okay, let me try to, show you, okay, this is Africa. This is where we come from. This is North America. You know, this is where we live, or this is Europe. This is China. This is, and I was telling him the different types of people that come from these places. And so, of course, in that conversation, he was just like, well, if we were from Africa, how the heck we get over to North America? how that happened? And of course, I had to explain that to him. But when I was telling him about, the Native Americans and what happened with them, and Black people and what happened with us, and Europeans, and that, when I was giving him all of that, I mean, he's 9, but he's quick. And he's just like, so you mean to tell me white people just been bothering everybody and just going in and they just mess with everybody and they don't like us? What shouldn't we not like them? And I don't want to be like, okay, no, you should not. I'm not telling you to hate white people. I have to teach him that, yes, these things exist, but that doesn't mean that all white people are inherently bad. That doesn't mean that when you see a white person, you should be scared. It doesn't mean when you see a police officer, you should be scared of them. I have to teach him that even though you know the history, you still got to love someone for who they are, take someone for who they are, their character, how they treat you. If they show that they're bad, then yeah, you stay away from them. But if they show that they're good and they're genuine, no matter what color they are, they're good and they're genuine. But it's hard sometimes because, like I said, he's 9. Things are very, very simple for him. He likes to simplify everything. And so he's just like, okay, but they did this and they did that. And this is what happened. So, or he'll, he may overhear something about the police and then he'll go, okay, well, police are doing that. So this is what that means. And, you have to kind of calm him down a little bit and go, okay, wait, let's actually talk this out. He's been called by his friends. He's been told that he looks like the shade of poop. He's been told, he has been called the N-word. I mean, he's getting ready to go to the 4th grade. This started in 2nd grade. And, you know, he's been called ugly. He's been called dirty. And I remember he told me, there's 2 things that he's told me within the past year. First, he told me that he wishes that he was white because nobody likes Black people, and he didn't want people to dislike him. And so I had to talk him through that. And the second thing that he told me, which he just told me this within the past week, he wishes he was a girl. Now, at first I thought we were going to have like an LGBT conversation. You know, I'm all up for that. Let's look, you know, I'm good with that. But he just, it didn't have anything to do with that. He said he wishes he was a girl because everybody hates Black men. And so I had to have that talk with him. It's hard. It's hard because you want to let him know that it's okay for him to be angry. I don't want my son to feel like it's not okay for him to have emotions and feelings. I don't want my son to feel like it's not okay for him to realize that something is wrong. But I also don't want him to grow up to be this angry person that's just mad at everybody and you know, he doesn't know what to do with that anger, and that's what I'm worried about. It. I'm worried that if we keep going on like this, if we keep not, it was something that you said, Rosa, and I wrote it down. I even posted it on my Facebook. You said, people that don't want change don't want conversation. And I truly believe in that. The first thing that I want to do is have a conversation. I've always said I could sit down and have a conversation with a racist and be perfectly fine. Because first of all, I'm nosy. I want to know, I want to know why you racist. What's going on? What's going on with you? You know, but I'm one of those people who are so open-minded. I can sit and listen to you talk about your viewpoint and separate myself from it being personal just long enough to listen to you and try to understand why you're the way you are. And then when I get up from that conversation, if I feel that you're a nice enough person, I mean, race is pretty much on the extreme, but if I feel like you're a nice enough person, you could be a Trump supporter. You love Trump MAGA hat and everything. I will still love you and be like, okay, we're good. We're friends. We're cool. I got some friends that are Trump supporters. I can still love them and still get along with them. We just got different views, just like somebody may have different religions or someone may have different lifestyles. As long as you're not hurting me physically, hurting my family physically, I have no problem with you. And I feel like we have somehow gotten away from that, where we can't handle just being okay with some people just think differently based on their experiences. If I say that I have an experience, you don't get to tell me that that's a lie and that's fake news or that's the media. You don't get to tell me that. You don't get to tell me that I don't go through those things because you didn't see them, because they didn't happen around you. What you do get to do is you get to sit down and ask me, well, how did those experiences make you feel? How did that shape your life? How can we make it where those experiences possibly is not happening to our children? That's the conversation I want to have. How do I make this so my child that I'm worried about bringing up in this world doesn't have to experience it quite as harshly as I experienced? Or how can we get rid of it completely? Don't tell me, oh, it's better now because now Black people get rich now. What are we saying? There were rich Black people in the day. Like, that doesn't mean, it's just things, it's different conversations that I've had. And like I said, I'm willing to have conversations, but it just, when you played that song, it makes me think exactly what he's saying. How many times do we have to see this? Do we have to fight about this? Does history have to repeat itself? How many times does this have to happen for you to get it? And then it gets to the point where it's just like, you don't want to get it because you don't want the change. You're happy right where it is.
Right, right.
Did I go off on a tangent? I probably went off on a tangent.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Everybody, it's Jasmine's birthday, so she's not gonna stay on the whole live. So does anybody have any comments or anything for her before if she's gonna jump off now? Anybody? Looks like Amy has a question for.
Well, no,
for
I
Jasmine.
I didn't have a question for Jasmine. I just wanted to comment on the original question when you were saying about how we felt when we saw George Floyd. I just wanted to comment about that. But if somebody has a question for Jasmine, I can hold it.
Okay. I don't think anybody does. Jasmine, are you ready to get off? Are you?
Yep, I'm done.
Happy birthday.
Okay. Happy
Happy
birthday. Thank
birthday.
you for joining us tonight. And
having me.
we'll talk again in a couple weeks. Talk with you in a couple weeks. Enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Okay, Amy, you want to go next?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I haven't watched the video. I won't watch the video. It's because I don't want to be numb, and because I'm an empath and I feel way too much as it is, and I know it would break me. So I haven't watched it. I know what it's about. I've read the transcripts. I've seen the still shots of it, but I have not actually watched the full video. What I did see recently that really messed me up was the video of the 7 little boys in Atlanta that were between the ages of 13 and 15, all standing with their hands up, and a cop had a gun aimed at them, and all of the neighbors were screaming at the cop, "They're just babies. They're just babies. They haven't done anything. Why are you holding a gun?" And he said, "Because I'm afraid." And to me, I feel like that's the core issue, is that white people, generally speaking, but police officers especially, live in terror. And they live in terror because of guilt. And, you know, I can't tell you, I had a client once who I was trying to educate about diversity, and I was trying to educate about, you know, the statistics and how, you know, the percentages of the Black population versus the percentages in prisons and all of that. And she said, well, we don't have, she's definitely a Trump supporter. And she said, well, we don't have, you know, racism anymore because of Obama. And well, I know, actually, I said, people think there's no more racism because of Obama. And she said, well, I think he's a sand N-word. And then she proceeded to tell me that he forced Congress to bow down to the Muslim God, and that if he could, he would enslave all the white people in retribution for slavery, and that that's what reparations were. And I feel like there is definitely, especially with the Trump supporters, the white people who never have had to deal, they know slavery was bad. They know Jim Crow was bad. They see the videos. They know what's happening now, and they feel guilty, and they don't want to admit. They personalize it. You know, my mother did that for a while. There was a point where I was far more militant than I am today. I'm kind of, you know, back in the middle. And she said, why can't you claim both sides of yourself? Why do you have to say you're Black? And I said, well, first of all, people look at me and they know, they can see the whiteness, right? So I have to make sure people understand who they're dealing with. But she really didn't understand because she personalized it. And she's like, well, you don't accept me. You don't love me. And I said, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the power and the privilege and the society, and how that it's not you as a person. But I think a lot of white people personalize it, and I think cops do. And I think that that's the part of the problem. You know, is it possible that police officers are making a conscious decision to kill Black men? It's possible, but I don't think that's what it is. I think that they're terrified. They're absolutely, utterly terrified. And so any Black man who's bigger than them, who's smarter than them, who might in any way, shape, or form make them think that they could be hurt or attacked. Even little boys. He literally was afraid that one of those little boys was going to have a gun or was going to, and they live in this utter and complete fear. And I think that's part of the problem is we can't address a lot of these issues until we get past that. I think that there's definitely, just sociopaths who are out to hurt people. I absolutely believe the people who kill cats and everything else. I absolutely believe that. But there's this perception in our society that Black men are these Mandingo warrior, gonna beat you up and hurt you. Meanwhile, almost every single mass shooting that's happened has been by white males. All the mass shootings that happen in schools and churches, and I would say statistically probably 90% of them have been by white males. So really, you as a person going out in the street probably have a greater risk of dying at the hands of a white male than you do of a Black person. But our society doesn't portray that. And so there's this perception, especially in the inner city amongst Black people, amongst officers, that Black people are going to hurt them. And I think that's really what we need to address more than anything.
Absolutely. Bennett, I believe Patrick dropped off, so you're the only male on here and you're a Black male. Do you want to comment about just being a Black male and hearing, just all the Black males who have been killed, and then George Floyd, and also just so everybody knows, Bennett's partner is a white male. So, I would love for you to comment on that, just being a Black male, how you feel, and then, being in an interracial relationship.
Yeah, sure. So I did not watch the video in its entirety, and it's because when I looked at George Floyd's face, I saw my own. I saw that it could be me on the concrete with someone's knee in my neck. It's like lynchings all over again, right? It used to be that the bodies were in the trees, and now the bodies are in the streets. And it just, it's a little numb, but I still get that instant, like, that could be me. And for even up to last week, thinking, what if I'm next? What if it's me in the street, and what will they say about me and my life and what I've done? I've gone to college. I've studied fashion design. I've studied Spanish language. I have a love for classical music, but I also really, really enjoy Afrobeat music. What are they going to say about me if that's me in the street? And that's what keeps coming up. It's not necessarily the most positive thought, but it's what always crosses my mind when I start to see, and now in the last week, another one of us is dead because of a situation in which there could be no de-escalation. So it keeps me awake. In the social sense, it keeps me awake. It's very easy here in Milwaukee and here in my life to sort of get wrapped up in what I'm doing design wise, or some of the creative projects that I'm working. So it keeps me in tune with the world, but it also keeps me awake at night, thinking that it could be me or my friends. Or my family members. I have been with my partner for 2 years now. He is a former political science teacher, so he has a lot of knowledge about specifically the Constitution, the Revolutionary War. He's got a lot of knowledge about the Civil War, and has done a lot in the community that he taught in to teach fairness, equality, racial bias, and working with that. Lifelong Democrat. has worked as a delegate for Democratic conventions over the years. And we fundamentally agree. We fundamentally agree. We disagree about how to get to certain places on things. Um, you know, as someone who came out younger than he did, I have a different experience. And someone as a Black gay man, I have a different experience. When I went to college, I came up through and when I say came up through, I grew up into myself as a gay male in the ballroom culture and in drag culture. So I've seen transgendered men and women die for just being themselves. I've seen them die for being Black. I've seen them die for, wearing the same wig as another person in a ball. And so I have a little bit of a more, I like the word that Amy used, a little bit more militant. He has been militant in the past, and I think because of his position, he's older, he has a family, he has 2 children, he was married for a time. He has a different view on that, and I don't disagree with what he says, but I do think that you have to, at a certain point, you can't keep telling Black people or gay people or transgendered people, no, you have to wait another 4 years, or no, the time for this is not now because we have these other things to do. When 401 years ago, people that look like me were brought to this country. I probably have more claim to the land that I stand on than most of the white people that live around me. And also having roots in the South and having, I am descendant of a Confederate general who died at Gettysburg. So sort of dealing with that internal, there's some interracial mixing in my family farther back already. Having to reconcile that with my identity as a Black man, my identity as a Black gay man, and then his identity as a white gay male. And it's I'll tell you, we were in Lake Geneva. Vicky, Lake Geneva here,
Yes.
and it's a beautiful suburb. It's a nice getaway town for a lot of people in Illinois. And I noticed that when we would go together in Lake Geneva, people would speak to him first, or they would serve him first, or they would automatically assume that he was the one paying for something, or they would and some of that is based on age, because he is older than I am. But some of that, I said, you don't necessarily notice that. And he said, at first, when we first started dating, he kept saying, it's all in your head. Well, we went back about 2 weeks ago to Lake Geneva, and someone said something to me in the store, and I responded very politely, and he said, I see it. I see what you're saying now. They're being nasty to you because they don't recognize their own implicit bias. So it has not always been easy. I care for my partner very much, and I am invested in the relationship that I have. And so that can at times come at a price. I've caught a lot of flack from people that I came up with through the ballroom scene saying, oh, well, why would you date a white man? Why would you date a man older than you? And it's caused division. And it's hurtful because I always sort of teetered that line that it was I was too Black or I wasn't Black enough, based on, and I'm sure we can all sort of attest to that, based on my education, where I grew up, the way I spoke, my interests, and then being in some of the things that we share, like Jack and Jill, or some of the other groups that African American, I guess you could call elite, or the African American upper class are a part of, things that other Black people that I had just met and wanted to be a part of their group and wanted them to know me, they were very confused about and didn't really understand how it made any sort of difference. So with my partner, I'm really glad that he understands and he listens. That is incredibly important. He listens and he always gives me space to say what it is that I feel. He's always very supportive about me being vocal about what I believe in, even if he does not believe that I'm doing it the way that it should be done. So there are disagreements, but fundamentally we're working for the same goal, definitely.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Bennett.
Of course.
Okay, let's see. Let me ask Tangela a question. Since everything happened, I mean, the George Floyd situation happened, have you had a chance to participate in any protests or marches or anything, or have you done other things, like had conversations with people at your job or at home about the situation?
Yeah, I have not personally protested physically, but I have been involved in a lot of conversations, both with people who are close to me and people online that I know, and it's been difficult because the problem, at least as I see it from my perspective, is there appears to be some question about the value of life.
Absolutely.
And we think about, especially, when news about George Floyd's past came out, does that devalue his life? Well, of course it doesn't. Because, I mean, especially for those of us who may be people of faith, we know that God still loved George. It doesn't matter what he did or didn't do. That really isn't on the table when we talk about whether or not he deserved to live. Whether
Right.
any of the people who are killed deserve to live. And unfortunately, to other people, whether they mean it explicitly or implicitly, and they haven't parsed in their own mind, the difference is, it seems like, we're talking about whether or not someone deserves to live, and if there's anything that takes away the value of their life. And it really rips out my heart when I'm in conversations with people and there are all of these excuses about, well, he did blah, 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 or well, he had this in his history, or well, this, or well, that. And it's like, you don't get it. And I don't know why you don't get it. And it's so frustrating. If it's frustrating for me, I can only imagine how frustrating it is for all of you, to also be in those conversations and have those experiences, and also have experiences of your own that may touch these experiences, as some of you have shared. And yeah, that's my situation currently.
Okay. Is let's see. I think Rosa, you're on. Let me ask you. I think you told me before that you have male and female children.
Yes, I have just one daughter. I have children from 2 to 25, so there's a big group of them. But I pride myself in the 5 Black men I've brought into this world to replenish the ones we've lost. But it's a deep conversation I've had with my young adult sons for the last 5 years, that all the things going on, we've gone back and forth, and I'm just running out of conversation, to be honest, on what to tell them on how to deal with these issues, because it keeps changing. I tell them comply, and that doesn't work. I tell them don't resist, and that doesn't work. And I've gotten to the point where I just tell them make it home. we'll deal with the rest later. But it's just it's disheartening. It's tiring. It's frustrating. I didn't watch the video on Mr. Floyd to the third day after his killing. I just told myself I'm not watching it. I don't want to watch it. I know how it's going to affect me as a mother. But then I thought, in his memory, in his honor, I need to know his truth on what happened during his passing. So I did watch it. And I don't think that's something in my entire life I'd ever be able to forget or, come to terms with, in the events, and him being murdered, and the look in the officer's face, the disregard for life and his actions. And there was a turning point, I felt, where it was no longer about Mr. Floyd as a suspect. It was about the people that were telling him to do the right thing, and his ego jumped in and say, "Who are you to tell me, an officer of the law, what to do? I'm not going to change my actions." And then that was just, you know, something that it made me feel hopeless. Like, what can we do? What are our options? You know, and I can only imagine what young black males, or um, any civilian at this point, because I do know it happens to more than black males. Lots of civilians are victims of this, and that's not something that I like to hear when we're dealing with this issue. But there's two parts. It happens more to black males, but it's not always white officers, it's not always black victims. There is a systematic flaw that needs to be addressed, but you know it's definitely proportionally done to young black males. Black women on a smaller scale, but still exists. And it's just something that in this time in our lives we should not still be feeling and experiencing. And but it is, and awareness is key. So this, and technology is a double-edged sword, of course, but it's very important. It's a different form of civil rights movement than we learned about, but it's very important and is a tool that we should be using to try to get over that. And I did want to say to Bennett, his experience, I've also noticed with a lot of different relationships, family, coworkers, and stuff like that, interracial relationships. And I feel it's a good thing that he's giving his partner space to develop and grow in his own time. You can't judge people and expect them to be on your same level because they have different experiences. But what we are asking is for you to move in that direction. Everybody's going to have to do it on their own time. We're not expecting everybody to wake up and sing kumbaya and love everybody in the world unconditionally, but we need to make progress in that direction. And I think that's very important to keep in mind. Um, I don't like to see ties severed over these issues. We should be coming together, not separating. But unfortunately, that's a lot of what I'm seeing. A lot of severed ties because of these issues are painful. And
Mhm.
some people don't understand. Some people are not sensitive to it. Some people are guarding their own fears and their own pain, like Tangela said, and sorry, Amy said, by guarding themselves and not wanting to understand or conversate about it.
Yeah, if I could just respond to that real quick.
Sure.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying, Rosa, and I think that I'm pretty young. I'm 28, and I've um, dealt with a lot of severing, not necessarily because of being black, but I've dealt with severing because of being gay, and it's not a first reaction. Um, I am the kind of person that has to walk back over bridges multiple times because of the community that I'm a part of. So I try and keep relationships strong. But I began to get to a point where it was like, this is who I love, right? And this is the person that cares for me and loves me as the person, as the black man, as the person that I am. And so cannot um if you cannot accept that, if you cannot condone that, then may the bridges I burn light the way to freedom, because I can't. This is my safe place. This is where I am. I am at my best. And so if you don't want that for me because my partner happens to be white, then you don't really want happiness for me. You want me to feel as bad as you do. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's absolutely
Absolutely.
right. Yeah. And I
So
think as minorities, as Black people, we have to kind of put out that same message that we are a proud, a strong, a worthy people, regardless of whether you choose to accept it, acknowledge it, fear it. But we have to start that conversation and presenting ourselves as that community where we've been systematically broken. You know, a lot of people have been telling us that we deserve this treatment because of our actions or our statistic, crime rate, black on black crime, whatnot. Do you think that's by accident or do you think it's systematic? So, I mean, I don't like to get into the arguments, but I try to remind people that these things are not by accident, that our young males are growing up in this environment and having to educate themselves and fight their way out of it because of different things as far as poverty, you know, drugs and things like that that they have been, I mean, disparity has caused this, not desire. So,
Well, and I try to educate people as much as I can, mainly because, like I said, people will say things in front of me they may not say in front of you, right? And so, I had an interview at a job, and the woman who I was going to share an office with said to me, "Is there a lot of crime in Colorado?" And I said, "No, not really." She said, "Well, there's a lot of crime here." And she looked around and she said, "It's all black on black crime." Like and I was like, she has no idea what my father looks like, what my child looks like, right? And so I do try to educate people, and when people talk about black on black crime and gangs, I'll educate them. In Chicago, the reason why there's so many deaths right now in Southside Chicago is because they closed down Cabrini Green, which was the projects, and forcibly relocated everybody in Cabrini Green to the south side so that they could build condos. My father lived a block away from there. Like whenever I go to Chicago to see my biological father, that's where we would go. And so what they did is they literally picked up all these gang members from Cabrini Green that were on one gang, put them in the middle of the south side where they were literally next door to their rival gang members. And the problem was these were all kids because most of the fathers had been arrested. So you take all these little children who are 15 to 17 who think, let's go to war, and you put them right next to their neighbor, and they don't have, from a financial standpoint, they don't have a methodology to earn a living. So they're just like, they grew up on video games thinking that when you shoot people, they don't necessarily die. So, they're understanding why these things happen, not just seeing that they happen. And that's the education I try to do with the people who talk to me. But, I found out within the last 2 weeks, I have very close family members who will post the Candace Owens video, who will sit there and I'm like, you've known me your whole life. You saw my child, you see her, you sit there and say you love me, and yet you're going to have these views. Those are conversations I can't have. I can have a conversation with somebody who wants to learn and somebody who wants to know. And I did that with my mother. My mother ended up becoming a very much of an ally before she passed away. But there's other people who, they're so set in their ways, they don't want to be educated. They don't want to know. And I feel like those are the bridges you got to burn. Those are the people you got to let go, because you can't, if they're not willing to hold your hand and at least let you have that conversation and ask the question. When all this went down, I had a cousin, and she reached out to me and she said, I really want to understand. And she had an hour and a half conversation with me and her 11-year-old daughter. And her daughter asked me questions. And she said, she asked me about George Floyd. And she said, I don't think that they meant to kill him. And I said, and it was funny because her mother said, oh no, they knew what they were doing because he said he couldn't breathe and they didn't get up. And so, those kind of conversations, I feel like those of us who are willing to have them, we need to. And I think, I said, I'm definitely a couch warrior. I have not gone to protest because My daughter has type 1 diabetes. I am the sole provider for not just my immediate family, but for a lot of people. I'm a national treasure. I can't get COVID. I can't, you know what I mean? So I can't go out and march. But I can, you know, I can do this. I can be in this panel. I can, you know, do research and find things and post things and hope that they go viral and open myself to have conversations with people to try to educate them. But I can't educate people who don't want to hear the truth.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with loving people from a distance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I don't even know if I can love them anymore, but I hear what you're saying.
Absolutely. I understand. Okay, I think we have about maybe about 5 more minutes. So before I conclude and everything, does anybody else have any comments?
Just thank you for the opportunity, Vicki. I appreciate it.
I appreciate all of you all coming on. Let's see, I just have one other, well, I want to make a comment to Tangela. You know, I know what it's like to be, and actually, I mean, Bennett could say the same thing growing up in a predominantly white suburb or just environment, period. A lot of times we were the only Black person in a sea of white people. So I appreciate the fact that you actually, you know, actually went to Hood Theological Seminary, where you were one of a few Black white people, and I appreciate you for being open to that. I wanted to make that comment, and I hope, you know, you learned some things and you saw what it's like to be the minority. So sure that was different for you.
Yes, thank you, Vicki. I mean, my time at Hood is one of my most treasured times. I got to spend a lot of time listening, and I really valued those opportunities to sit with my classmates and just really hear things that I had never heard before and just listen to how they felt, to experiences they had, which a lot of times were very foreign to me, and to empathize with them. And I would not trade my time at Hood for anything. It's very precious to me.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay, I think everybody has had a chance to talk. A few people had to drop off, so I believe there are about 4 left, other than myself. So, you know, let me just make a couple closing remarks, and then we'll end. Yeah, I think it's about 9:55. So, you know, I told you all, if you didn't already know, I'm in ministry. And so, you know, I just wanted to talk about something. I know we have all different religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs. There might even be, you know, an atheist on the line, on here, or in the group, period, of the 8 of us. Okay, Amy.
I'll claim it.
Huh? You'll claim it?
I said I'll claim it.
You know, so I won't use, you know, Jesus or anything. But
oh no, you go ahead. My mama was a minister. I already told you that. Jesus is my homeboy. You good?
Denomination.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I want to say is, you know, and this is a generic statement. I'm not going to say, you know, use the word God. Just our Creator, period, created all of us, every human being. We were created equally, and, you know, we all look different, but that was designed for a reason. I mean, I believe that our Creator wanted to, you know, he did that for his glory. He wanted people to be different. He didn't want to create everybody the same, otherwise he would have. So, you know, I think we need to embrace our differences, no matter what we look like. From a, you know, as a minister, as well as a law school graduate, I have taken a stance and just have this belief. I've had it for at least the last 20 years. I truly believe that the value of human life is priceless. And I cannot wrap my thoughts around one human being deciding that another human being does not have the right to live or to live a decent life. And, you know, that person kills another person. I can't understand that at all, that a person would put him or herself so highly, you know, above other people and think they're better than others. That doesn't make sense to me. again, we were created equal. We're all one people. We're part of the human race. You know, we just have diversity. We have different looks, different lifestyles and everything. So, you know, no one person is inferior to another one, period. Just to conclude, I think it's almost 10 o'clock. You know, I just want to thank all of you all for, you know, agreeing to do this with me. And we're going to do this for months, you know, every other Wednesday from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. I know that everybody won't be able to get on each time, but, you know, if we could have a decent number of people each time, a decent number of people, and, you know, alternate and everything, that would be great. You all have interacted beautifully with each other, and I just appreciate you all so much. We've talked about a lot, and I want to thank the audience for listening, for watching. I hope that you will share this video with all of your friends and family and coworkers, neighbors. You know, it's time for us to have conversations like these. You all have heard a lot of pain tonight, and also a lot of pride in who we are. And so again, I want to thank everybody, and I hope that you will tune in next time, next Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays from now, July 1st. And, you know, next time we'll kind of talk about, you know, we talked about our truths tonight and our pains and everything. And next time in 2 weeks, July 1st from 8:30 to 10, I really want the topic to be, you know, where do we go from here? We've talked about we're all different ethnicities and have had different upbringings and everything, lifestyles and everything. So, you know, where do we go from here? How do people start before we heal? You know, we have recognized our pain, but now, you know, what are some solutions to, you know, really working towards healing, reconciliation, equality, and justice? So again, that will be the next conversation on July 1st. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Thank you all for watching, and it's about 10 o'clock. So we're gonna end. So you know, everybody have a great rest of the week, and many blessings to everybody. Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is